Oh, good morning. Paul's back in Syracuse. Thank goodness.
Happy.
It's to see his family. We're all about family here at ASOTU. We're talking inflation is up. Fords are getting trucks and green bubbles are adios.
Oh,
Kind
man.
of. Not really. Don't get too excited.
So we got in super late last night. Yesterday I was in 4 states: Idaho, Washington State, Texas, and New York. We did a flying V across. Well, we were at the brand building summit with Darren, Doane, and Moscow. By the way, it's Moscow, Idaho, not Moscow. Moscow. There's no cow, so no cow. And so we drove from there to Spokane, Washington. The only way to get back to Syracuse relatively efficiently was to fly direct to Dallas, and then Dallas direct to Syracuse. Got in late last night, and my wife came down for coffee, and just like we always do in the morning, I was like, I haven't actually seen you since Sunday afternoon because we were at Beaver Toyota and all the things. So I was like, I'm doing the show from home this morning. I'm about to go into the office.
As we get talk to us a little bit about recap this brand build event that Darren put on, because he pulled together some people that are thinking extremely critically about what it takes to brand and build employee retention through that. Like, what was the thesis? What were the themes?
So, in typical Darren format, right? It was like a Cowboys conference, not like, you know what I mean? There's just people who are making, so we had like the lead singer, the front man for the punk band MXPX. So I mean, we're going way back in the day, but they're still crushing. They're still building a brand. His lead singer's on LinkedIn now. Mike Herrera, his name is. So I got to spend a little time with him. John Sacco with recycling. We met people that were in data. I met a guy named Stefan. I can't remember his last name, but he basically built all the third-party web page systems for Amazon. So if you're a third-party seller on Amazon, he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, he worked with Bezos directly, like him and 4 other people with Bezos in a room. And he was telling stories about what it was like to work. And basically he was like, yeah, he's like, there was a season, he goes, where I was in charge of the internet's magic money button. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, the buy now button.
The buy now button.
Yeah.
Oh my internet.
Goodness. So I mean, these are people that understand what it takes to be flexible and nimble. And when we were talking about brand, actually Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Day Trading Attention, came up a lot. The bottom line is this: you can't be romantic about what you think you want to do. You have to pay attention to what other people want and deliver that to them. And the more romantic you are about what you think, the less likely you are to connect with people. And that's why Darren's approach to brand is very broad, right? Saying like, hey, you have to try things. You have to be willing to lean into what is uniquely you and keep going until it hits. And we're seeing that right now, actually, with Mohawk Chevrolet with their office
years and years of consistent work to like all of a sudden the payoff is they just kept doing it and something hit, right?
Yeah, because people there were like, have you seen this? I'm like, oh yeah, they're great friends. And
I got 2 emails this week from people that don't know that I know them, like, oh, have you seen what these people are doing?
Yeah, wow. They were saying there. James Orsini from VaynerMedia sent me a link yesterday, like, oh, have you seen this? It's like, oh yeah, they've been on. But it's no surprise, right? The people that all of a sudden, right, have this thing, it's usually like, where'd they come from? And a lot of the truth is, like, most of them have been doing it for a long time, and it just happened. Works with bands, works with all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it was great to just get outside the industry and realize like it's the same game. In my session, we did a lot of Q&A and kind of went back through my history and my journey, talked about the book that I wrote and just how, like, back then it was like the auto industry, retail dealers needing a translator to say, hey, this is how you approach the market with brand. And some were doing it. It wasn't like no one was doing it. But now here we are, like several years later. And, you know, you and I have been talking about this a lot. Like the tide seems to be turning and people are waking up to the fact that building brand actually has a very actionable and tangible ROI.
Yep. You're right, spot on. And more people in auto are figuring it out. So,
yep. And especially
let's get into it.
Recruiting. Yeah, let's do it. We got some news to talk about today. Do we have any? Are we releasing anything today? We've released a bunch of stuff this week.
Nothing crazy. We got a webinar coming up. If you haven't checked out Auto Collabs recently, the last 4 episodes are amazing. So go find Auto Collabs on a podcast platform. Check them out.
Auto Collabs. Yeah, we got a variety. Webinar August 7th, 2 p.m. What's up with the cars rule? Remember that? We were talking about the cars rule quite a bit back in the day with our friends at Mosaic Compliance Service. James Ganther. Like Jim Ganther has got the best voice ever. So if you just want to hear an amazing radio voice, very smart. This is a
smooth
for compliance built by lawyers. So they're the kind of the people like you want telling you about compliance. So August 7th, go to ASOTU.com, sign up for that. The webinars, these quick shots have been an absolute blast. So we hope you join us there. Let's talk about some news, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, this was coming. Automotive repossessions are up 23%. 23% in just the first half of 2024, surpassing now pre-pandemic levels, indicating some financial stress on consumers as interest rates are up, inflation's hitting everybody, and now that all like kind of like the stimulus money is dried up, people are starting to fall behind again. Vehicle seizures decreased during the pandemic due to like the stimulus, and also there's a lot of bank leniency, right? There was a lot going on, but now surged back. Repos up 14% over 2019, not over last year. 14% up over pre-pandemics. Subprime borrowers are struggling with 5.62% of them at least 60 days late now on their payments. Average interest rates are up. Obviously, new cars, 7.3 for new cars, 11.5 for used cars. Monthly payments averaging $739 for new, and now almost $550 for a used car is the average payment. We'll see the Fed might lower interest rates later this year, bringing some relief. Jeremy Robb, our new friend, Senior Director of Economic and Industry Insights at Cox Automotive, summed it up in saying, quote, I think a lot of consumers are really waiting to see if interest rates come down a little. That's kept a lot of people on the sidelines. That is something, Kyle, that you've been saying for the last month or two. We've been talking about that more and more.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I think, we went through this wave where people had disposable income and were willing to purchase at the high interest rates, high payments. The bifurcated market didn't come into play as much, but now that you see, we were talking about high auto insurance rates, you see high interest rates. People are very aware of that. Less disposable income now than there was 2 years ago, or even disposable bank account holdings. And so you get into this position where people are sidelined again due to affordability for different reasons, right? And so I think as used car prices start to renormalize, and hopefully we don't get too much reinflation in used car prices due to the lease turn-ins not coming back. But if they continue to normalize and see a downward trend, and we get a reduction in the interest rates, we may see another influx of buying behavior in Q4 or early Q1 of next year. So, it just means that the auto industry gets to, flex and move again.
Absolutely.
So,
and they'll be ready for it because they're paying attention to what the market wants. Speaking of what the market wants, hit the button. Somebody hit the button. There you go. Time. So Ford has again slowed down its EV plans, now repurposing its Canadian Oakville assembly plant to build the opposite of EVs, large gasoline-powered F-Series Super Duty trucks. They went all the way back, delaying even further the launch of the much-anticipated three-row SUV. The Oakville facility will now add capacity for 100,000 F-Series Super Duty trucks. The Kentucky plant and the Ohio plant are running flat out. They said, we can't miss the demand. Right? Highly profitable vehicles.
Golly.
They're saying we're not playing the game where we're making what we want the consumer to buy. We're playing the game where we're making what they're telling us they want to buy. They lost nearly $4.7 billion last year on their EV business, with projected losses of up to $5.5 billion this year. They plan to invest an additional $3 billion to accomplish this Super Duty expansion, the production expansion, securing the 1,800 jobs that are currently at Oakville and adding about 220 more jobs at the engine and component plants.
I'm going to venture a guess. That $3 billion investment is going to have a massive return on it. The ROI is coming back. I'll tell you what, could have called this from a mile away a year ago, right? People want trucks in the US and they got to make them. And so here they come down the pipe, going to get some gas up in them engines.
I'm pretty sure these are the most profitable vehicles in Ford's lineup. I think
for
the Super Duty trucks, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how, last year, right, we saw a big pinch on these, and we were talking about Super Duty trucks when they were in the middle of this EV thing because they couldn't get enough of them, right? There was a backlog. People were waiting
Well, and
90,
remember when
120 days.
all those F-150s were sitting on massive parking lots without
Sure
chips,
do.
and people had demand then, and they still have demand now because of the backlog of production.
Yeah. And
Just trying to meet that.
I think this is one of the great things that has come from all the back and forth is the fact, and I'm kind of sensing this across the board, not just in the auto industry, but just in culture in general, that when you go through such I'll call it polarizing, but what I mean is like you're in such one extreme of something and rational thinking starts to come back to the market and like consumer demand actually driving business decisions. I think we're so far less likely to ever go back there again because now it's obvious and clear that especially like the OEMs, they're being held accountable to like the results like they always are, but like the cultural swing around EVs gave them a little bit of a pass, held accountable to generating profit, making the things that people want to buy. And I think we're not going back. We're not going to go back to that irrational thinking.
Nope. Speaking of irrational thinking.
Oh, it's about time.
The irrational thinking is really about buying an Android. That we won't say we're biased, but Apple's iOS 18 is finally bringing RCS support to iPhones. We knew about this a little bit ago, but people are starting to get their hands at more scale on the beta. This is going to significantly improve messaging between iPhone and Android users. The biggest thing, photos are now high res, ending the era of that tiny little blurry video or image that came across. If you want to check this out, you can get the iOS 18 in beta on iPhones by going to your settings right now. There are some home screen customization options, Siri improvements, revamped Photos app. They added the RCS communication feature. And then just so you know, you're still going to get the green bubble. And the Apple RCS implementation is still not encrypted. So you may still want to WhatsApp your Android friends for encrypted messaging. But, you know, it's a step in the right direction. And I think, you know, obviously Apple has dealt with pressure from all sides at this point on messaging and even just like flexibility of the platform, and you see that with iOS 18. Just kind of a little interesting one for the end of your Friday here.
Well, I think it's relatable because there's a lot of like everyone has the friends that have the Android phones, right? And it's like a pop culture thing where like the blue bubble has been a like, I don't know, it's been a little bit of a sign of like contention for Apple users versus Android users. And like, you know, when you start to text a group and like, all right, we're blue, and then you put the one in and you hit like start to type a message in a group text and it turns green and you're like, who do I have to remove from this group text? who doesn't get to stay? I wonder if this I wonder if it'll still show up in iMessage across the Mac platform, like when you're on a Mac. Like, is that going to show up now? Like, that's one of the most annoying things for me.
Oh, you don't get.
I don't.
Oh, yeah, you can take care of that.
See, that's why we do this show.
See, folks. That's why we do this show. Hey, if you use a Mac and you don't get your Android friends messages in your iMessage, you can do it. It's fine. There's just a couple settings that you got to.
All right. Hey, are you on the beta right now?
No, I'm not. I thought about it, but this beta introduces a ton of new features.
So you don't want to get stuck in something that's going to jam up something you want to do on a regular basis.
I've heard the horror stories. Yeah, I've heard the horror stories.
Well, there you go. If you have a friend that has the Android, now is a great time to just text them a high resolution photo and be like, we're at this level of relationship.
We're at this level of friendship.
From a brand cycle though, Apple's done, I think, a really clever job with making everybody happy, supporting the RCS, making the EU happy, having it as a convenience for its users while still maintaining the brand exclusivity that they're so good at building. I actually saw when I was in Moscow, Idaho, there was a computer shop. And I was like, a computer shop?
What?
Like a storefront. I was like, Miles, we have to go in this place. And it kind of reminded me of like a Radio Shack. First of all, I have no idea how they make any money. You know, selling like network jack ends, but they had an original Macintosh Lisa computer.
Oh, that's so cool.
And
That's
at the
really cool.
time, it cost like, I don't know, $3,000 in 84, which today
Unbelievable.
$31,000 today's dollars. Who
Golly,
knows how
isn't
much
that
it's
wild?
worth now? That's the power of brand.
Isn't that wild? That's the power of brand.
All right, let's roll it.
Well, hey, look, we know the power of brand stretches much past your store and all the way to the auto industry, but you're a unique part of that. So go serve someone today. Care locally, because globally, we're counting on you.